Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel India's IT Service. In the last series, we have just understood how to work with the string. Okay, so I just make all the videos, guys, and all the interview questions have been covered here. And I request for you to watch all these videos so that you'll be enhance your skills in the string concept, which is very important. Okay, and even though I've just covered all the interview questions for you, and I request for you to just go through all this video and please subscribe my channel there. Right? Thank you so much. Let's begin here. I just bring another series for you guys, where we'll be understanding about the collections, because this is another very important topic for interview point of view and as well as the application level also. Fine. So basically, in this series, we'll be understanding about the collections. Most of the classes I'll be pick up in here, and even though I'll be taking the interview point of view, what are the questions basically can be asked in terms of collections there. Fine. So basically, in the first video, we'll be covering here about what exactly the array versus collection. So that what is the difference between arrays and collections? Because you maybe have work already with arrays, and what are the challenges basically we'll be facing in arrays, and how these challenges will be overcome in case of collections. Then, okay, and then we'll understand the terminology about the collection framework, and collections also, and then we'll see the hierarchy of the collection framework. In that, we'll try to understand what the different categories of the collections has been given there. In that, I'll be pick upping the first one as a list category. And in that, I'll be taking one implementation class ArrayList. Okay. Then I'll be taking the another couple of videos for other implementation classes there. Fine. Okay. So let's begin here without wasting much time there. So the first thing is we'll be understanding about array versus collections. Okay. Basically, you have already learned when I talk about array. So basically, array is what a variable where we can store a group of elements. So what type of elements we can store in array? We can store the similar type of elements, and how the memory can be allocated. The memory can be allocation as a continuously here, right? That only we have been done. So in short, array is a variable where we can store some group of elements. Group of elements. What type of elements? Homogeneous elements in a continuous memory allocation. So that is called as array there. So basically, when you just working with the array, guys, the first thing is if you just look at array are fixed in size here. So what is the meaning of array are fixed in size here? So for better understanding here, let me show you, okay, how exactly the arrays work. So basically, we'll take the array, right? Like this, we'll take the array, and this is called as creation of an array. This is called as creation. Now, if you just look it carefully, guys, we have been just created the array here of the size of the size. Okay, we have created an array of the size. Okay, so just wait. Yeah, this one here. So we have been created an array here of size. What is the size we have created, guys, now? 5 here. So what is happening now? Let's take what is happening here now. So it will create the a block of memory. So how many blocks it is going to create? It is going to create the 5 block of memory here, right? It is going to create the 5 block of memory. Where index always start from where? 0. So I'm just writing the index here. 0. Let's increase the font size. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes. Okay. And initially, what is happening, guys? No, based on the data type. So what is the data type we have taken? Generally, we have taken array of integer, right? Integer array we have taken. So basically, for the integer, what's the default value here? The default value is 0. Now, what is the point here is whenever we create an array here, okay, based on the size or dimension here, it is going to create the number of blocks. There is a 5 block has been created as of now, right? Where internally array is going to point like this. Now, initially it is storing the 0 value because we have not initialized. So what if that if we want to initialize? So we can initialize here by taking the array index position. So let me take the array index position. Array of 0 equal to 10. array of 1 equal to 20, array of 2 equal to 30, array of 3 equal to 40, array of 4 equal to 50 because index start from 0, so always take the n minus 1. Now my question is it possible to store array of 5 element guys basically because I cannot increase the size, right? So generally if I try to store the fifth element here, so what happens in this case at the time of runtime, we can get an exception saying that array index out of bound exception because the size is 5. So we got the 5 blocks of memory and each block is storing the elements. Am I right? So we cannot store or we cannot increase as of now, right? Because we don't have any sort of mechanism where we can increase the size dynamically. Huh? What we can do is we can create another array and we can copy the previous elements and we can store it. So that part we can do it here. But in generally, it is not at all possible to increase the size because the size is what fixed here. The size is what fixed here. The size is fixed when you're working with the array there. I hope it's clear for everyone. Okay. Okay. Now, so array are fixed in size here. Array are fixed in size here. Okay. Now, I hope the point is clear. What is the meaning of array size is fixed? Okay. Now, if you just look at instead of taking this array, if you take a collection here, in case of collections, the size will be automatically increased or shrink dynamically there. So you no need to worried about okay how much the size has to be increased because in case of collections, each and every class is internally using some data structures. So obviously what happens like at some point here, if the size is full or 70% is full here, like a fill ratio, so automatically the size will be increasing here. So that's the advantage when you compare the arrays there. So that's the reason rather than using the array, we'll be using what collections there. Second point is array can be used to hold both primitive and objects. So what is the meaning of this one, guys? So basically, when you're working with array, we can store. We can store. Let's say, for example, what is the meaning of this one? The meaning of this one is you can create an array here like this, where you can store the primitive values. You can also create here student array, where you can store the student objects here, right? Obviously, it's possible. So array can be used to hold both primitive values. So these are the primitive values. We had the primitive values. You can store the primitive values. Not only this, you can also store the objects. That means when you create the student array, you can store the group of student object. If you create an employee array, we can store the group of employee objects. If you create a customer array, you can store the group of customer objects there. Okay. So array can be used to hold both primitive values as well as objects. So both are possible. But when you're working with the collections, guys, collection is basically designed to store only objects. Even though you try to store the primitive value, it is going to convert into object there because collection is basically designed to store objects. So how you can store the primitive values, that all the things I'll be showing you practically. And what is happening here since from JDK 1.8, they have been added the auto boxing. What is auto boxing? That all the things will be understanding in the slowly coming videos there. So when I show the practical things, I'll be making the things very clearly for you. Okay, na? So obviously this session will be somewhat theoretical part because we need to understand the importance of the collections. So that in the next thing we'll be understanding the practical things, guys. Fine. Okay, great. Let's move to the next one. Third point, generally faster due to continuous memory allocation. So when you compare with the collections, the service is quite fast because the memory allocation not random is continuously there. The slower due to dynamical resizing because somewhat it has to be rechange the size of the existing here. So and it is quite performance wise, it is quite less when you compare with the arrays there. Okay, so if you're looking the performance point of view, I always recommended to go for the arrays rather than collections there. Okay. Next point is there is no underlying data structure for arrays and hence ready-made methods are not supported. So what is the meaning of this one, guys? Because as I said, array is a variable, right? So obviously is a variable. We cannot store, right? Sorry, array is a variable. So obviously, when I say the variable, we don't have any sort of methods, right? because the class contain the methods, right? So obviously there is no predefined mechanisms where we can able to perform the operations. What operations, guys? Basically, if you just look at whenever we want to insert in between, right? Or last, okay, if you want to remove here, okay, if you want to search here, right, etc. Or you want to update here, etc. So whenever you want to perform this sort of operations, explicitly you have to write a logic, but you cannot find a predefined methods. By using that, you can able to perform the operations very quickly there, right? Because it's a variable, right? But the collections, guys, if you just look at it in the collections, each and every classes internal using some data structures, and we have the couple of methods which is used to perform the operations there. Okay. Not only this, there are so many other reasons here. Because of this here, okay, the people are moving for the collections. Okay, I hope people are understood, guys. Fine. Okay, so that's the reason people are start using the collections rather than working with the arrays there. So always good practice to go for the collections, especially when you're designing the application also, so that you can use a predefined mechanism to perform the various operations depends on your requirement there. Right? Great. So this is about your arrays and collections. That's the reason we are moving for collections. So let's understand the two terminology, what exactly the collection and what exactly the collection framework there. So when I talk about collection, guys, it basically represent a group of individual objects as a single entity. So what is the meaning of this one is, so the point here is when you're working with the collections, maybe you are creating the integer object, maybe you are creating the string object, maybe you're creating the string buffer object, maybe you are creating the string builder object. I'm just showing. You're creating the employee object, you're creating the student object, you're creating the customer object, you're creating the float object, double object. So various objects are creating here. So when I talk about the collections, when I talk about the collections, so collections basically represent, basically represent, what is represent, guys? It represent a group of individual objects as a single entity. Are you able to follow, guys? No, this is single entity. So it is, take the reference here. So this is your what mark collections there. This is what your collection there. So basically the collection is what represent a group of individual objects as a single entity. You can find the group of, okay, when I say group of individual objects means it can be integer, float, double, character, boolean, string, string buffer, customer, employee. So different group of individual objects as a single entity is nothing but what? Collections there. Nothing but what? Collections there. Okay, I hope you understood the definition of collection. Okay, next one is what is collection framework? See, basically the collection framework is talking about define several classes and the interfaces which can be used to represent a group of objects as a singularity. So that means it define the API, means a package where we can find the several classes and the interfaces. By using that, we can able to store the group of objects and we can perform the various operations there. So that is nothing but what? Collection framework. So collection framework is not a class, is not an interface. It define basically several classes interface which is helping us to represent the group of objects as a single entity. Like what? You can find the list, you can find the set, you can find the map, you can find the queue, DQ, etc. And also you can find the several classes like collections, arrays, okay? You can find the interfaces like comparator. So we have the various interfaces, classes, which is helping us to represent the group of objects as a single entity. It's nothing but what? Collection frameworks. So with this one, I hope you understood about collection and collection framework. Let's move to next one and we talk about hierarchy of the collection framework. See, basically, when I just talk about the hierarchy here, you can see that on the top level, this is one thing you always remember that whatever the classes I'm just defining here and the interfaces, which is defined in java.util package. So Sun Microsystem has been given the collection concept and they have been defined all the classes and interface in this package. So in this package, you can find all the interfaces, all the implementation classes. By using that, you can represent a group of objects as a single entity, right? Understood? So in that top level, we have the iterable is the interface, collection is the interface. So collection is a root interface of list, queue, set. This is very important here. Okay, now if you see that hierarchy, I just represent here list extend collection, queue extend collection, set extend, because interface can extend another interface. So list, queue, set, collection interval. All these are what ma interfaces. You can see here I have represented as interfaces here. Okay. Now, see, basically we know that the principle, right? General principle. Interfaces contain abstract methods, and for interfaces we can't create object, but we can hold an object of its implementation classes. Obviously, you have to go for what implementation classes, right? So if you want to understand more things about OOPS concept, please comment me so that I can make one series on the OOPS concept for the free of cost for you. Okay, na? Right? Okay, let's talk about the implementation classes. So what are the implementation classes we have, guys? We have the array list, we have the linked list, we have the vector, and we have the stack here. So all these are the implementation classes of list interface. By using this, you can represent the group of objects as a single entity. Okay. Next one, if you see that we have the queue. Now the question is, sir, we had list, we had queue and set. Why we should go for the different category? See, the point here is different categories having a different purpose. For example, assume that you want to store the group of objects where duplicates are allowed. Duplicates are allowed. Then you can go for list category. Okay. Suppose you want to store the group of objects where duplicates are not allowed. Then you can go for what? Set category. Suppose you have the requirement where you want to store the group of objects where it can be stored based on the priority. So you can go for queue here, right? So different categories having the different purpose. According to your requirement, you can choose what category you need to take it here. But for the timing, as I said for you, we were focusing on the list. Then after that, I'll go for set, queue, and other categories also. Map. Fine. Okay. Now till here is clear, right? Now, what are the implementation class of the second? Set, has set, link has set. And also we have the tree set. So these are the three implementation classes we had for the set interface. Next one, we have queue. We have priority queue as well as array queue. So these are the implementation classes of what more? Set, that is list as well as queue here. So in future class, I'll be, or in the sense in the coming videos, I'll be talking about each and every categories in details there. Fine. For the time being, we'll be focusing on the first category there. So the first category we'll be taking as list, and then we'll understand how we can work with the list here. So let's start working with the list here. The first one is list. So when I talk about the list, as we have seen the hierarchy, we can say that simply it is a child interface of collection, which is helping us to represent a group of individual objects where, this is very important point, guys, where I'll just highlight the points here, where insertion order is preserved. This is very important part. What more? Insertion order is preserved. So this insertion order is preserved here. Okay. So this insertion order, sorry, insertion order is what? Preserved here. Okay. Now insertion order is preserved. Now, and also this is very important. Duplicates are allowed or not allowed? Duplicates are allowed here, and we should go for list. So what is the point here now? Simple. It is basically used to store some group of individual objects where insertion order is preserved and duplicates are allowed. So this is the point you have to remember here. Next point, guys. Now, what is the next point here? List is the interface. We can't create object, as I said, but we can hold an object of its implementation classes, right? So this is the principle, right? For interface, we can't create object, obviously, but we can hold an object of its implementation classes. What are the implementation classes we have, guys? Now, let's see. The following are the implementation classes of the list interface, like ArrayList, linked list, vector, and stack. There are some more things are there, but we are taking the most important thing which we have to cover here. So in that, we'll be talking the first one, guys, which is very important. That is what ArrayList there. So we'll talk about the ArrayList first, and then we'll can go for remaining things. Fine. So let's take here the ArrayList first. ArrayList is a implementation class of list interface where we can store the group of individual objects. Duplicates are allowed. This is the second point. Underlying data structure is resizable array. So that means when you're taking the array list as a set, not only array list, linked list, vector, stack, hash set, link hash set, tree set. Okay, there are so many implementation classes. Each and every implementation classes internally using what ma data structure there. Insertion order is preserved means the order the which you are inserting here, the same order we will get the output on the console there. I'll be showing practically so that you can understand better. Okay. Next one is heterogeneous objects are allowed here. So that means we can store what heterogeneous. What do you mean by heterogeneous, guys? Now, so that means we can store integer values, we can store float, we can store double, we can store string. That is called as different type of heterogeneous means different type of objects there. Next one, null insertion is possible. Sir, is it possible to store the null values in the array list? Yes, obviously here. So next one is by default, all the methods are non-synchronized. So what is the meaning of non-synchronized here? Non-synchronized means multiple threads can be accessed. So that means, for example, let me show you. So this is your method. Assume that. Okay. So what is the meaning of this one here? Multiple threads can be accessed here. What now? Multiple threads can be accessed here. That is called as non-synchronous. If it is synchronized, only one thread can be accessed. Okay. So I'll be making the series of the thread also. Don't worry, in the future, in the coming sessions, I'll be making the separate series for the multi-threading concept, which is very important also. Fine. Okay. So I hope you understood non-synchronized here, right? Great. So these are the key points. What are the key points, guys? I'll repeat once again. ArrayList is an implementation class of the list interface where we can store the group of integer objects. Duplicates are allowed, and data structure is nothing but resizable array data structure. Insertion order is preserved here. Heterogeneous objects are allowed here. Null insertion is possible, and by default, all the methods are nonsense. So these are the major key points I just kept for you for very short way to understand here. Okay, now I hope you understood about the ArrayList. Okay, now let's see that API document so that you can understand better way. Okay, so I'll just copy this link, guys. Just copy this link here. You just open this link here. Now go to the package, java.util package. Yes, go to the java.util package. In this package, guys, you can find all the interfaces, classes, enums, exception, and errors. So first we'll go for what we have the list. You can see the list, guys. First category you're taking here. This I'll be talking generics in the coming videos. Okay. So here, if you just remember one point, I'll be just adding one point here so that you can understand. Collection basically is added in java.util package, and this package is added from J2 or okay Java 1.2 version onwards. Okay, now since from JDK 1.2 version onwards, collection has been added. Collection has been added. Okay, so it is very long way. Okay, now, right? Okay, so now if you see that this is the interface here, we have the implementation classes. What are the implementation classes, ma? There are so many things, right? We are taking the few things: array list, linked list, vector, and stack. So first one you're taking what? Array list. Now if you see that we have the array list, all the points I've covered for you, which is added from JDK 1.2 as I said. The first one we talk about constructor summary here. Now you can look, guys, there are three constructors has been given. The first which doesn't take any argument. Second which take the collection. I'll be taking this also. Array list which take initial capacity. So first I'm going to take the constructor which is an empty here. So whenever we create an object for the array list, because array list is a class, we create an object. Whenever we create object for the class, we always look for constructor. Now, whenever we create the object for the array list, it is creating the empty list, guys. It is creating what? Empty list. So empty list like this one. It will be like this. This is called as empty list. Again, empty list will be created with initial capacity. Initial capacity. So what is the initial capacity, guys? Now, 10. So what is the meaning of this one? So 10 block of memory is going to occupy initially whenever we create the list. Now what happens, like whenever we store 11th element here, let's say up to 10 we have stored, because index start from where? 0. 10 elements you have been stored. Now you want to store 11. So automatically the size will be increasing here. Understood, ma? Automatically the size will be increasing here. Okay, now so whatever the existing size here, okay, they have written some algorithm and automatically the size will be increased. So automatically will be grow the size here. So that's the important of the collections there. How? I'll be making to understand for you. Okay, fine. So let's go and understand also what are the methods we have. We also have the methods, guys. The first method we have add, which is helping to add the element to the list. Add, which take two indexes. That means if you want to store the element in the specific index, we can take the help of add method, which take two arguments. We can also store add all group of, means group of list you want to store at a time here. You can store it, guys. Based on the index also, we can store it. We can clear the list. We can make a copy of the list. We can cross check the element in the list. We can for each. This I'll be discussing consumer Java 8. I'll be making another series for Java 8 also, guys, in coming couple of months there. Next, we can get the elements by index position. We can find the index. We can cross check is empty. We can move the elements line by line. Iterator we can use this. Okay, there are a couple of methods, guys. There are a couple of methods we'll be seeing in the next video. Okay, so as of now, I'll be just showing for you because I don't want to make the video as a lengthy video. So I'll be making very short so that you can understand and move to the next one there. So the first thing is we'll be understanding here, uh, generally here, how to create a list and how to display. That's it in this video. In the next video, I'll be showing, okay, what is happening and what are the methods we can use and what are the various operations we can use it here. So first thing is, let's create a new project now. Right click, new Java project. Let's give the project name as collection practice. So click on next. I'm not using modularized programming. I'll be making the series of module also in future class. Okay, so here, let me create a class, Control N shortcut. Let me create here a test class. Use Control M for minimize and maximize main method. The first thing is I'm going to create a list, guys. List. So if you just look at, guys, it is showing the error. Why it is showing error, guys? Because this is a class which is defined in util package. We are importing here. Okay. Then let's create here. Whenever we create object, look for the constructor. So which constructor you want to use? I want to use the first constructor, which is going to create an empty list. Let's display here. So what is the answer we are expecting here? As I said, is a empty list. We get the empty list here. Yes, perfectly is working, guys, now. Okay. So in this empty list, we can store, we can perform various operations. So in the next video, we'll be understanding here how we can work with the various other operations here. Fine. So that's it for today. So we'll be understanding here in the next video about how to work with the various operations there. Fine, guys. Thank you so much once again. Okay, and please, those people have not subscribed still, I request for them to subscribe my channel, guys. Okay, thank you so much.